It's Pastor John here with Corumdale Church. I want to take a moment to invite you to an event called the Old Testament According to the Word. It's an event that we're hosting at Corumdale Church in Bremerton, Washington. It's going to be on March 26th at our building from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and we're inviting a guest speaker, lead pastor of Trinity Church in Seattle, and also a dear friend of mine, David Richmond, to come and to share with us regarding the Old Testament according to the Word. Now, you may be wondering, why are we doing something on the Old Testament? Well, in the 2nd century, there was a man named Marcion who was deemed a heretic, and he believed that the Old Testament was obsolete, that it was not for the people of God, the church, the New Testament people. He went as far as suggesting that the Old Testament God was actually a different God than the God, Jesus Christ, who we see in the New Testament. And as I said, he was tried and found to be a heretic. Now, what does that have to do with us today? Well, while Marcion died, his ideas, Marcionism, actually did not die, and over the last year have really been bubbling up in the North American church. Some very influential, very well-loved and famous pastors have been presenting this very idea. They, like him, have been saying the Old Testament is obsolete. They, like him, have been saying thou shalt not obey the 10 Commandments. They, like Marcion, have suggested that the Old Testament God is uncivilized and that God changes, if not becomes altogether a different God in the New Testament. And so as God's people, as the church, we want to know, what does God say? We don't just want to know what people say. We want to know, what does God say? And so we're setting aside this evening to examine, how do the New Testament authors, how does Matthew, how does John, how does the Apostle Paul, how do they view and engage and relate with the Old Testament? And what does Jesus Christ himself say and teach us and model for us regarding the Old Testament? So this is going to be a fantastic evening. It is really an important question for the church to know, how do we relate to the New Testament as well as the Old Testament? So March 26th, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, you're going to need to register for this event. You don't have to be from Corumdale Church to come. It's open to anybody, but you do need to register, and also know that we do have limited childcare available, but you do need to register for that as well. So I'll include a link here as I post this. But March 26th, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, the Old Testament according to the Word. It's going to be a fantastic time. There's going to be a time of lecture as well as a time of Q&A. And my hope is that together, as God's people, we will grow in our understanding and our knowledge, not just of the New Testament, but of the Old Testament. And this is so important because the apostle says that right doctrine is essential for right living. So we want to think rightly about God. We want to think rightly about God's Word so that we might live rightly in God's life. So the Old Testament according to the Word, March 26th, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. Make sure you register. It's going to be a fantastic evening, and I look forward to sharing it with you. All right, take care.